Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona El-Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book and empowerment coach for Muslims. In today's podcast, I'll be speaking about how Allah rescues the empath from the clutches of the narcissistic abuser. If you're new to this channel, please do go through my previous podcasts in order for you to understand my recent ones. And do kindly like, share and subscribe to this channel. Please do share my podcasts with people whom you feel could really benefit and heal from this knowledge. So, as you know from my previous podcasts, I have spoken so much about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposes narcissists to you. Now, this exposure can come in different ways, but more often than not, it's found in the red flags that people present when you get to know them or when you're dealing with them. So, the more you learn about narcissistic personality disorder, the more you learn about codependency, the easier it will be to pick up on the red flags that you come across when dealing with someone. Now, when you're getting to know someone for the first time who has narcissistic personality disorder, you're not really going to know what the red flags are to look out for. Now, you may come across behavior that's problematic, and you may even consult other people about the things that you see or hear, and those people tell you, oh, it's normal for men to be like that, it's normal for women to be like that, or it's normal for parents to be like that, to be that toxic. It's not seen as a big deal. And so these people are on a journey, right? An educational and spiritual journey where they are now learning about demonic spirits and personality disorders and their own codependency. And they have to come across all of these red flags that they are now brushing under the carpet because they're either learning from other people that these are normal, or they're not taking them seriously enough to save themselves from a potentially dangerous situation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to think for ourselves. He has gifted us with a brain and intellect so that we can differentiate between right and wrong, and so that we can decide when we need to exit a toxic situation or to distance ourselves from people who are not good for our lives. They're not good for our iman, our mental health, our physical health. They're just not good for us in our life. And Allah will continue to keep sending you red flags and people that are warning signs for you to either cut them off or distance yourself. So if they're family members, you distance yourself. And if they are friends and husbands and wives, then sometimes you have the luxury of being able to cut them off completely so that you can protect yourself, especially when you do not have children from these people. At the end of the day, Allah gave us divorce so that we can cut someone off if we need to. After my last podcast, I received some questions from people. They were asking me, what should we do if we are unsure if someone's a narcissist or if what we're seeing are red flags? The answer for that is to pray istikhara. You need to pray istikhara because if you're unsure about someone, if you cannot put your finger on whether or not they do have narcissistic personality disorder, or maybe they're just troubled, having a bad week, having a bad year, if you want to be sure that what you're hearing in your head are not just, whispers from your qareen to maybe sabotage a good relationship or sabotage a potentially good marriage, because sometimes, Iblis will come and do that. And he does that through your qareen. So, a lot of people sabotage good marriages and good relationships with good people because your qareen gets into your head by whispering evil thoughts about them until you end that relationship or ruin that relationship or abandon that relationship. So if you're unsure, if the thoughts and the feelings that you get about someone, if they are uncomfortable feelings, but you're not sure if the voice in your head is coming from a good place or a bad place, then pray istikhara. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the tool of praying this powerful istikhara prayer where we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, and He will show us via signs and via the behavior of that person if we should be dealing with them or not, if we should have a relationship with them or not, and if they have narcissistic personality disorder or not. It will become very apparent to you after you pray istikhara and seek Allah's guidance. You can learn how to pray the istikhara prayer from YouTube. I have written the instructions for it in my Instagram account. It's best to be prayed after Isha, because sometimes people see dreams after. So I definitely recommend that you pray that in order for you to get clarity, because Allah will always expose a narcissist. I think a lot of narcissists will be very curious about this podcast today, and a lot of people do lurk on this channel and other channels about narcissistic abuse to learn new tactics and manipulations. So if you are a narcissist and you have come to this channel today to listen to this podcast to see how you can manipulate your way out of being exposed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stopping someone from being rescued by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I'm here to tell you it will never work. You can never, ever overpower Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your manipulation. And when Allah wants to expose and rescue, He will do it, whether you are the smartest narcissist on the planet or not. No amount of manipulation and intelligence and intimidation can ever stop Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from exposing and rescuing those whom need to be rescued from the abusive clutches of narcissistic people. So you can listen all you want, but there is nothing you could ever do to stop this from ever happening. Because when Allah wills something, it will happen no matter what you do to try and prevent it. So I just wanted to make that clear, and I really hope that if there are narcissists listening to this today, and I know there will be, then you really need to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always be on the side of the empath. Allah will never side with oppressors, abusers and hypocrites. Allah will always provide strength and protect those empaths who are beloved to Him. He will always fight in their corner. And we know this from the stories of the prophets, and we know this from so many hadiths about Sahaba, and we know this from so many things that have happened in the world to good people whom Allah sent a lot of help for. Right? Allah sends help to those who need it, and He rescues those who find it very difficult to get out of a very difficult situation. So there are two stages in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides His help and assistance to both codependents and empaths when they are stuck in trauma bonds or stuck in very difficult relationships with various narcissists. So the first stage is when Allah sends lots of red flags to you as a way of exposing the narcissist. So the first stage is always exposure. There will be contradictive behavior, toxic behavior, insulting things that they might say, offensive things that they might do. They might test your boundaries, they might be rude. You might see that they have anger problems, they're disrespectful towards their parents. It could be many things. Okay, they might be promiscuous, they might try to seduce you and they're meant to be so-called religious people. They might show hypocritical behavior. All of these things are red flags. They might slip up in lies. All of them red flags. So if you listen to my previous podcast about the trauma bond, you'll understand how many people, especially when it's your first time dealing with a narcissist, even if you're dealing with narcissistic parents, you're not going to know that all of these are red flags. So the more red flags you brush under the carpet, the more codependency you have to deal with. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs to wake you up to all of these red flags that you're brushing under the carpet as being dangerous. Because it's those exact red flags that are going to come and bite you where it hurts when you get very deeply emotionally attached to these people or involved with these people. So the red flags that you ignore are an indication of what you need to work on. For example, if you are impressed by the way someone conducts themselves in a religious manner, but they do things to contradict their religious beliefs, and you ignore that, then you now have an issue with either your own faith, because someone who has a high level of iman would pick up on that very quickly. They'd say, no, there's something not right about this person because their actions do not match their words. Their actions do not match their presented level of iman. So if your iman is lower than it should be, then you're going to brush red flags like that under the carpet because you are more impressed by their beauty, by their status, by their fame, whatever else it could be. So Allah is showing you that the red flags that you brush under the carpet is where you need to work on the most when it comes to your own character and personality. Another example is when you're impressed by someone's beauty, but as you get to know them, they're rude. They use vile language. They're always swearing. They're uneducated. They have no class. If you ignore those red flags in someone, and they can easily speak to someone they've just met in such a vile way, even if they're not doing it towards you, even if they're not swearing at you, if they are swearing about other people, backbiting other people, gossiping about other people, but they're so handsome or so beautiful, and you brush those red flags under the carpet, your lesson here is to experience what life could be like with someone who has a character like that but looks so good. How far will that get you? Allah will show you it can only get you so far until that person's character now becomes your problem, because that person's character has now come for you. It's come to attack you. At that point in time, their good looks are not going to mean anything. All of these are life lessons. You shouldn't beat yourself up about brushing red flags under the carpet, because it's all a part of a learning experience. It's all a part of a journey. Now, if you keep doing this in all your relationships, you keep brushing the same red flags in all of your relationships, you have a terrible codependency problem. And you really need to get therapy for it. Because if you're not learning from your mistakes, and if you're not learning from the dangers of brushing red flags under the carpet, then you're going to have a very miserable life with these abusive types of people, and the abusive people will get worse in their abuse. So again, like I've mentioned before, husband 3 will be a lot worse than husband 1. Wife number 5 will be a lot worse than wife number 3. Until you finally learn the lessons that there are things you should not brush under the carpet. So the first stage is always exposure. Allah will expose someone to you in various stages of the relationship. So, for example, with your parents, there will be a lot of red flags in the way they raise you. They will use Islam to manipulate you, physical discipline to manipulate you. They might take away money. They might threaten you with taking away your inheritance if you don't comply with certain things that you don't want to comply with because it's unnecessary or it's haram. For example, they want you to marry someone you really don't want to get married to, and they say to you, well, if you don't marry this person, there's no inheritance for you. Or we will never forgive you if you don't do this, and we won't do that for you, and consider yourself with no parents if you don't do this, or if you don't comply. All of this is manipulation and abuse. It can take people many years for them to come to the realization that they've actually been in a toxic, abusive relationship with their own parents. Now, does Allah expect you to know this from the beginning? No, it's all a life journey. That's why we're not meant to beat ourselves up about it. I mean, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put Adam alayhi salam in the test with Iblis, and Adam alayhi salam failed that test because he fell for the manipulations of Iblis, not because he wanted to rebel against Allah, but because he didn't understand the manipulation of Iblis. Did Allah expect him to beat himself up over it and feel guilty for the next 20 years, 30 years? No. Because he didn't expect Adam to know the manipulation of Iblis. Allah does not want you to beat yourself up over things that have happened in the past that you have now learned from. He wants you to learn from it quickly, accept the lesson, and apply it to your life so it doesn't happen again. So he gave Adam a great mission by being his ambassador in this dunya, and he just told him to get on with it. Stop ruminating. Stop beating yourself up. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You've repented, khalas, leave it. Once you repent, you're meant to leave it, because the repentance is sincere. So when you let it go in the wind, You're not supposed to bring it back. You're not supposed to keep bringing back the guilt and the shame and the anger of having been abused because you were naive or because you brushed red flags under the carpet. You're like, well, Allah showed me so many times that this person is not a good person, but I still married them. I hate myself for marrying them. Until when are you going to hate yourself? Until when are you going to feel the shame? And until when are you going to allow your qareen to manipulate you, to keep you in this state of beating yourself up so that you can't move on with your life? How else do you think people get PTSD? It comes from this. It comes from people unable to let go of their trauma, unable to let go of their shame and their anger. It turns into a disorder. Your disorder of PTSD comes from your qareen. So when the repentance is sincere, you must let it go. The same way Allah told Adam to let it go. You have a more important mission now. Don't waste the next 20 years of your life hating yourself for decisions, very poor decisions that you made. You were meant to make those poor decisions so that you could learn so much about yourself. Narcissists are allowed into our lives, permitted into our lives by Allah, so that we can learn about ourselves. It has nothing to do with the narcissist. What Allah wants to teach the narcissist through us is between him and them. Our concern is what we need to gain from the narcissist. We can't lose, and we only lose when we do not allow ourselves to move on from stupid mistakes that we have done in the past, ridiculous decisions that we have taken to brush red flags under the carpet, and horrific decisions to marry people who aren't good for us. It's fine. It's all good. We need to chill. We really need to chill more about this. So in this stage of exposure, there'll be two categories of people, the empaths and the codependents. The first category of codependents will be those who, no matter how many red flags Allah shows them, they still justify, problematic behavior. They will still make excuses. They're now too emotionally involved and attached to this person to leave, despite all the problematic signs that are coming up, despite the problematic dreams. Even after praying istikhara, sometimes, people pray istikhara and Allah will send them dreams about somebody. He will send them dreams about, being abused, or the reality of that person, or, just more signs and obstacles will pop up. And even then, a heavy codependent will still say, no, that comes from the shaitan. That can't come from Allah. I'm going to continue to wait. I'm going to be patient. They don't want to accept signs after istikhara. So when you pray istikhara, you have to do it with the intention that you will accept the signs that come up. Because if you don't, if you're still in denial, if you're in denial of the signs that Allah will send you, you're never going to move on. Praying istikhara is completely pointless because you're still looking for ways to justify the signs that Allah sends you to try and save and, protect you from entering a potentially dangerous relationship. So codependents will spend a very long time, collecting red flags. They have a habit of collecting red flags until they get to saturation point. Saturation point is when enough is enough. And this can take many, many years. So I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine the human being, the codependent human being, like a deep well. Okay? So you have the bucket that goes down into the well. The heavier your codependency, the further down the bucket is going to go to get the water. So some people's codependency is right at the top, some codependency is in the middle, and some is all the way at the bottom. So it takes the bucket a far longer distance to go down into the well to get the water. So human beings are the same. Sometimes it will take a codependent triple the time of someone else who also has codependency, but not as heavy as they have. Some people do need to be in relationships for 10, 20, even 30 years with a narcissist until the journey of that bucket comes all the way back up, and a light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, hold on, I'm being abused. This is not normal. I need to get out. So there's no shame in having that much codependency. It would have happened as a result of all your life experiences accumulating to get you to that point. So again, some people might need 5 red flags to get out of a situation. Some people might need 50. Some people might need 100. Everyone is different and it's fine. People really need to stop shaming each other for staying in relationships for longer than necessary because they don't understand that everyone is at a different point in their spiritual health. Sometimes the codependency runs so deep in someone that 20 years are needed for the codependency to finally rise to the surface so you can address it and get rid of it. Because if you're not ready to address your codependency, it doesn't even matter if you know about it. It doesn't matter if you know you're codependent. If you're not ready to address it, you will stay in the same situation until you are ready to be rescued. Okay? So that's the first stage. Now the second stage is the rescue stage. This is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends his angels to rescue you from a very difficult situation. Now, who is this rescue for? It is for people who are so oppressed by someone that makes leaving a situation extremely difficult. For example, someone could be stuck in a relationship because of a toxic smear campaign, and they will find themselves unable to clear their name from the smear campaign because the person whom they're married to is very well known in society. There might be an imam, a scholar, someone famous, someone who is very much liked in society, and people have taken their side. People have believed their side of the story. Or it could be a husband who is oppressively keeping his wife in a marriage and threatening her that if she was to ever leave, he would do X, Y, Z to her. And it could be women who are finding it very difficult to obtain a divorce or a khula because it's very expensive. They cannot pay for it. They cannot hire solicitors to help them with the process. Or it could be people who have been dragged to court, and because of the accusations that have been filed against them, because of the threats of having their children taken away, they find themselves really stuck in a situation that they are really struggling to exit because they do not have the backup, they do not have the male relatives, and they do not have the resources to be able to free themselves from a situation. So more often than not, it's people who really want to leave a situation that is so toxic. They recognize it's toxic. They know that they're with someone who has narcissistic personality disorder, but the exit is very difficult because it's been made near impossible to leave an abuser. And I have found from experience that those who need rescuing the most are women who do not have supportive male relatives. So if you're in a situation where you don't have caring fathers, brothers, uncles, you don't have that support system, and you're facing a very difficult battle with a narcissist on your own, I promise you, it is you whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send backup for. He sends an army of his angels to get you out of the situation. And I'm going to explain to you later in this podcast what those angels will do for you. And they are the same angels Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to the prophets, the same angels who were sent as backup and as divine intervention to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his army of believers when they had that fear of fighting the enemy because they didn't have many soldiers. They didn't have as many soldiers as the enemy did. So they were so fearful that they would be overpowered by their enemies and oppressors, and that many of them would flee from fear. So, they're in a situation where they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know they're all Muslims, right? They know that they are being led by the Prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam. So we're talking about people with very high iman here. But because of their fear of being so outnumbered, they needed Allah's help. They needed Allah's rescue, and Allah sent them his rescue team. Allah says in Surah Al-Anfal, verse 12, إذ يوحي ربك إلى الملائكة أني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا سألقي في قلوب الذين كفروا الرعب فاضربوا فوق الأعناق واضربوا منهم كل بنان. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and remember when your Lord inspired to the angels, I am with you, so strengthen those who have believed in the army. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieved, those who are at war with the believers, so strike upon their necks and strike them from every fingertip. So because the believers were so terrified of being overpowered by the enemy because of their low numbers, Allah told the angels, give them reassurance, give them firmness in their faith, and strengthen them so they no longer fear being overpowered by the enemy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent thousands of angels to fight with them in the Battle of Badr. Now the enemy had Iblis on their side, and he was the one who encouraged them to go to war against the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But when he saw the rescue team that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the believers, Iblis fled from the battle. In Surah Al-Anfal again, verse 48, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ زَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُمْ وَقَالَ لَا غَالِبَ لَكُمُ الْيَوْمَ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَإِنِّي جَارٌ لَكُمْ فَلَمَّا تَرَاءَتِ الْفِئَتَانِ نَكَصَ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ وَقَالَ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّنكُمْ إِنِّي أَرَى مَا لَا تَرَوْنَ إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهَ وَاللَّهُ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. So Allah says, and remember when Iblis made their evil deeds appealing to them. This is the enemy now. And he said to them, no one can overcome you today. I am surely by your side in this battle. But when the two armies faced each other, he cowered and said, I have absolutely nothing to do with you. I certainly see what you do not see. I truly fear Allah, for Allah is severe in punishment. When he saw the angels come as backup, he fled. He knew he had no chance. He knew the army had no chance against all of those angels because Allah is always victorious. And he will always take the side of those who believe in him, who have that tawakkul, that trust. The most important secret in receiving Allah's help and Allah's rescue is to have faith that it's coming. And so we know there are some battles that the Muslims did lose, but Allah permitted those battles to be lost because he wanted to teach the Muslims valuable lessons in those battles. Whether they be political lessons, whether they be lessons about the hypocrites, who are living among them, like when the Jews betrayed the treaty in Medina with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and they, stabbed him in the back. There are some things that happen to the believers because Allah needed to open their eyes to certain things. But in this particular battle, it was when Iblis saw Jibreel alayhi salam, that is when he turned on his heel and he fled from the battlefield because he knew when Jibreel is there, there's no chance. There's no chance at them winning because of how powerful Jibreel is. And so the enemies were really upset with Iblis. They were like, hey, you told us that you're with us. You told us that you've got our backs. Iblis said, I'm sorry. When Allah sends his help like this, there is nothing I can do for you. So there will be things that happen in our lives that have been under the instruction of angels to save us. And I'm starting off with this ayah, this verse in the Quran, so that you can understand the rest of this podcast. And how Allah sends angels to save you from your own situation when you feel hopeless. When there's no hope, there's no backup, there's no security, there's no protection, there's no support. When you're in that situation, that's when Allah sends his angels. And when help isn't sent, when the rescue isn't sent, It's because there's a lesson for you to learn. You are able to get out of that situation, and Allah will keep sending you red flags until you get yourself out of a situation. It's like when a man complains so much about his wife. He complains about her oppression. He complains about her bad treatment. But Allah has given him a way out by issuing her a talaq. So Allah's not going to rescue that man from the situation because his exit is in his hand. It's not like a woman who can be held hostage in a marriage because, she doesn't have the ability to easily issue a talaq like a man does. So women are more oppressed in these situations than men are, and that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the woman who is oppressed by her husband in the Quran, the woman who went to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and she complained about her husband. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Mujadala, verse 1, قد سمع الله قول التي تجادلك في زوجها وتشتكي إلى الله والله يسمع تحاوركما إن الله سميع بصير. Indeed, Allah has heard the argument of the woman who pleaded with you and complained to you, O Prophet, about her husband, and she has appealed to Allah to answer her dua. Inform her that Allah has heard her complaint and the conversation that has happened between both of you. Surely Allah is all hearing and all seeing. So when someone is in a situation of being oppressed, Allah wants us to know in these verses that He hears and He sees. But when the exit is given to you on a golden plate, but you do not grab a chance to exit a toxic situation because you're not brave enough, you have fears, you're manipulated, you feel weak, you can't do it, you're scared of losing your kids, you're scared of disrespecting your parents, you're scared of this and scared of that, or maybe you're guilt-tripped, then Allah will keep sending you lessons until you find that bravery, until you address that codependency, until you get on your 2 feet and take the golden tickets that Allah has given you to get out of a situation. And that's why it's only women who are addressed in the Quran when it comes to them complaining about the husband. So the dua of a man who is disrespected by his wife, Ya Allah, get me out of this situation, Habibi, Allah's already given you a way out of the situation. You address your fears and your lack of bravery and your feeling of weakness and get yourself out of it. Here, Allah's not going to send a rescue team. You have to rescue yourself because you can. But when you're in a situation where you're oppressed and you don't have that tool in your hand to exit from a situation, that's when Allah will send His rescue team. And this is why a lot of codependent men will stay in toxic marriages for years and years and years until they come to the realization that they need to get themselves out of the situation. They need to save themselves because Allah's given them the ability to do that. So basically, if we do not follow the Quran and Sunnah as much as we possibly can, and we do not take the instructions that we are given seriously, then Allah needs to teach us lessons about the consequences of not doing so. And sometimes the consequences are staying in a toxic marriage for many, many years unnecessarily until we do what we're meant to do and until we address our codependency and our lack of bravery. Now, look at the Battle of Uhud and what happened there. It's the battle that the Muslims lost. Why did they lose it? They lost it because the Sahaba who were in charge of monitoring the situation from the top of Mount Uhud, they descended from the mountain before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave them permission to. So he told them, do not descend from the mountain until I say it's okay. So when the Sahaba saw that they were victorious in the battle, they wanted to celebrate, they hurried down from the mountain, and Khalid bin Walid had spotted them. So by that time, the enemy had accepted that they had lost the battle and they were withdrawing. But when Khalid bin Walid saw that the Muslims were coming down from the mountain, he took his army round the side of the mountain that they could no longer have a view over, and they managed to attack the Muslims and win that battle. So Allah allowed them to lose that battle and to lose many of the Sahaba because they did not listen to the instructions of the Prophet Muhammad. So even if they were victorious, even if they'd won that battle, they should not have come down from that mountain until it was given them permission to do so. So that was the lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted them to learn. Never go against what the Prophet Muhammad is telling you to do. Always listen to him because it's in your favour. And if you don't listen to him, this is what's going to happen. If Allah rescues them every single time, despite the mistakes that they make, they're not going to learn, and they're going to make mistakes that are even graver and more detrimental to the well-being of the ummah that was growing at that time. So when the exit is in our hands, and when victory is in our own hands, Allah gives us more time until we realise that. But again, I'll say it again, those who are completely stuck in a situation that they cannot exit because they feel so hopeless within it and they need Allah's help, that's when He sends His rescue team. Let's look at the stories of the prophets in this situation. Look what happened to Musa alayhi salam when he fled with Bani Israel from the oppression of Fir'aun, and they found themselves at a dead end. They're now in front of a massive ocean. What on earth is going to get them across that ocean? They had no boats, they had nothing. So they found themselves in a hopeless situation. No one and nothing could save them but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is when Allah sends His rescue. So He asked Musa to strike the ocean with his staff, and He split the ocean for them to find a way through, to get to the other side and escape Fir'aun and his soldiers. This was the rescue of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. He was an innocent child when his brothers took him and sold him to the Bedouins as a slave. And look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned that around for him. He rescued him, provided for him, and He gave him an honourable position. And not only did He give him an honourable position, Allah also cleared his name from a smear campaign that Zulaykha had launched against him. I'm going to do another podcast, inshallah, about the manipulations of women using this story, inshallah, as a foundation. I'll keep that for another day. But Allah will clear your name. Allah will always clear your name. That's why I tell people, if there's a smear campaign launched against you, just say, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. And Allah will clear your name. Allah will do something and expose something that will completely clear your name. Don't take revenge. Don't go out of your way stressing yourself, defending yourself. Just say, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Your name will be cleared. And look what happened to Maryam alayhi salam when she was so distraught at having a baby without being married. She really feared for her dignity. She really feared for her reputation. And Allah rescued her from that situation by allowing Isa alayhi salam to talk while he was in his crib. So miracles are sent, unexpected things happen, things pop up. The situation completely changes because of what Allah allows to happen. So either He will permit an abuser to do something to get you out of a situation very easily, or they will be exposed in a way that frees you, or a miracle will happen. Miracles can still happen until now. It's not just, in the time of the prophets that they were seen. Until now, there are miracles that happen. Until now, there are people meeting angels in human form. There are still people meeting angels in human form. But you have no idea that there are some people whom you've come across in life, whom you've helped or given charity to, that old man that you once saw in the street who needed your help and you helped him could have been an angel in human form, and that same angel is sent to you to get you out of a sticky situation later. There are angels who walk with us, and sometimes other people can see them and we can't. There are women who walk alone at night, for example, and men avoid them. Men don't attack them, they don't abuse them, because they can see the angels and you can't. They see those angels as men walking with you or behind you, so they don't come near you. There are situations where angels will protect you in your life, but you don't see them, but other people can. Look at the story of Abu Jahl. When the Prophet Muhammad went to pray in front of the Kaaba, and Abu Jahl wasn't having it, and he said he would go and kill the Prophet while he was in sujood. So people gathered round. He'd picked up this big rock because he wanted to drop it on the Prophet Muhammad's head, and people were watching in anticipation as to what was going to happen when he does that. And as he was nearing the Prophet, Az-Zabaniya came out. Az-Zabaniya are the angels who are the gatekeepers of hell. And they are so scary looking, they are terrifying to look at, that Abu Jahl, when he saw them, he fled. He was so terrified of what he saw, he fled. This can also happen to people, good people, who are made to go to dodgy ruqya practitioners. If an empath is sent for ruqya, for example, an empath might have a narcissistic husband who says, "Oh, you're possessed. You're definitely possessed. I'm going to take you for ruqya. You're the one with the problem. You're the one this, you're the one that." And the narcissist insists on taking the empath to a ruqya practitioner. More often than not, the ruqya practitioners that narcissists like to go to or associate with are also other narcissists, and they deal with the jinn. So when people go to these ruqya practitioners to get, ruqya done, the ruqya practitioners are using the jinn to get what they want from the empath. You're dealing with a narcissist, another narcissist. Be very careful who you go to for ruqya. And the jinn that they send to you to harm you are fought by angels who protect you. And they are angels who appear in a very scary form to the raqi. So the raqi will be terrified by what he sees, and he now thinks that you have really bad jinn. And he insists on you having a problem and you needing to pay thousands of pounds to get rid of the jinn that you have. What he sees are not jinn. They are angels who are protecting you from the evil jinn that he is using, because a lot of these raqi practitioners are magicians as well. So you will find angels who protect you from abuse, from harm, and from a horrible death at the hands of an abuser. And the hypocrites will always be exposed. Another example that I can give you from Islamic history, aside from when the hypocrites and the Jews had betrayed the Prophet Muhammad in Medina, after he had passed away, ﷺ, and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq led the Muslims, a lot of the hypocrites from the society came out. And that's why Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu, he launched the Ridda Wars. The Ridda Wars happened when lots of people who were not true believers within that Muslim community came out to rebel against the leadership of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And they felt that they can now do that and show their true colours and show their true belief now that the Prophet Muhammad has passed away. So they came out to the surface. It's like a disease, right, that comes out to the surface. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq identified them all, and a war was waged against them because they started to attack the Muslims. They started to harm the Muslims. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he said, well, if we do not sort this problem out now, and the hypocrites spread, and they start harming and causing fitna, in the ummah that we have created, the very small ummah that they needed to save in order for it to grow, then they would be the losers. So he fought so hard to protect the legacy of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and continue the message of Islam. So when the time is right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always exposes the hypocrites. He always exposes the covert narcissists who are sneaky, slimy, and who intend harm for good people, and Allah deals with them. Allah will send the right people to deal with those covert narcissists. And in that particular situation, Allah had given Abu Bakr as-Siddiq the power and authority to deal with them at that time. So if you look at your situation when you're dealing with narcissists, you will always find that Allah gets you out of a situation, or He makes a situation easier for you, or He will send you someone who is capable of getting you out of a situation, the same way Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was given the role of sorting that situation out at that time. So someone will pop into your life who will offer unexpected help. For example, a solicitor might come and say to you, if you're dealing with a difficult court case, he or she might say, I'm going to do this for you for free. Fi sabilillah, I know you can't afford it, but let me help you with this case. I'm offering my services to you at no cost. Or that person can be a very compassionate judge in your court case. Or someone who gives you money to get out of a difficult situation. For example, you can't pay your dowry back that a narcissistic abuser is demanding in return for a khula. Someone comes to you and tells you that they have the money for you to give the abuser for you to get out of that horrible situation. You may not be able to afford to pay the dowry back, or to pay for accommodation to get out of a difficult situation. Someone comes out of the blue with some money for you, or you get a great job opportunity, or someone offers you help that is just beyond your expectation. So a clear sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescuing you is when someone is sent to you in this way to get you out of a very difficult situation. And of course, there's nothing a narcissist can do about that, because you're receiving the help that you need to overcome their oppression. And you know something? Sometimes the help that you need is information, knowledge. I've had a few people email me telling me that after they understood narcissism from an Islamic perspective, they managed to get out of their situation because they managed to get the answers they needed and the closure. So they could find the bravery that was required for them to address their codependency and overpower the oppressor. So please do share these podcasts. You never know whom they might help. Loads of people are seeking the Islamic perspective and answers to all of these problems that people face on a daily basis. Sometimes just a little bit of knowledge can get someone out of a horrible situation. When knowledge comes to you, it's not by coincidence. Allah opens your eyes when He wills, and He allows certain information to come to you in order to help you gain that courage and strength to save yourself. Now, another thing that narcissists do, I'm talking about the narcissistic men here, is to punish you, they will issue a talaq. Okay, a verbal issuing of the talaq, or a text message, whatever. They will just issue one because they want to scare you, they want to punish you. They are using it as a consequence of something that you've done. So for example, you answer back, or you stop giving them the supply that they need, or you stand up for yourself and they say, you know what, I'm not dealing with this. They believe that a talaq is going to ruin your life. You're terrified of a talaq. You are terrified of what society is going to say, what people are going to say behind your back. You're worried about being a single mother. They play on this. And they say, okay, let me scare her. Let me teach her a lesson. Anti talaq. Boy, is that your golden ticket out of that piece of hell. You grab onto that talaq with everything you have to get out of that situation. You think that the narcissist in that moment in time is powerful and intelligent, You better believe Allah makes them stupid. Allah takes away their intelligence. He allows them to utter anti taliq, to get you out. Because more often than not, and the evidence for this is when you accept the talaq, they panic. And they say, no, I didn't mean it. I was angry when I said it. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. And then they start thinking of all the different ways that they can patch this mistake up that they don't know how they made. And they won't issue you a divorce certificate. They won't go to the Sharia council. They won't give you that certificate because they are now thinking to themselves, how did I do that? How was I stupid enough to issue a talaq when she's my long-term source of supply? I need to get myself out of this problematic situation that I've put myself in now. And I'm going to insist and brainwash her Islamically to make her believe that it doesn't count. It's not a valid talaq. And they only say that when they know and they see that you've accepted the talaq as your way out. Oh, they don't like that. Because what they wanted to see was you grovel and beg and cry and plead and ask them, what is it going to take for you to take me back? And then they up the level on that supply that they want from you. Oh, you want to come back, do you? Okay. Well, now you've got to do this for me if you want to stay. That's how they get more supply from their victim, because they play on their weakness. More often than not, when a narcissistic man, especially the misogynist, when he makes a mistake like this, it's hard to come back from when their victim is someone who has made constant dua for Allah to get them out of a situation. If you are an empath and you've made that dua, those words are music to your ears. Anti taliq will be the best 2 words you will hear that year. It's the equivalent of someone saying, here's £2 million for you. And it's not a scam. Someone is actually giving you £2 million. That is the help of Allah. He's allowed an angel to allow this person to say this, to issue that talaq, set you free. So when you're an empath who has been waiting for this moment, you will know it's the help of Allah. Now, if you're a codependent, unfortunately, who hasn't made dua for an exit because you're working so hard to keep this marriage going, you're going to beg and plead, and you might even get discarded. You might get destroyed by that talaq because you so badly need that marriage for your self-esteem. You need that narcissist. And so you'll go back. Or the narcissist will discard you as a punishment and then maybe take you back later. He might hoover you sometime later. But that's the difference between the person who has made dua for an exit and the codependent who is still sucked into the trauma bond cycle. They're not awake yet to what's going on, and they'd rather stay with the narcissist and see a divorce as an inconvenience and a disaster than as a way out. So there's a massive difference here in mindset. Now, another thing that might happen with men and women is that the truth is revealed. And it might be the truth that you've been waiting for a very long time, so that you have evidence to be able to exit a toxic situation. For example, evidence of cheating. Maybe you had suspicions that your husband or wife has been cheating on you, and you need the evidence in order to get an easy divorce, whether it's a civil divorce or an Islamic divorce. Whatever it is, you know that you need that evidence. And then one day, Allah just puts that evidence in your face. You see messages, whatever it is, you'll see something, you'll catch them in the act, or someone you know might see them, or something will happen for Allah to give you that evidence that you need to get you out of a situation. Okay, this comes down again to exposure. This is not a red flag now that you're brushing under the carpet. This is now Allah giving you the evidence that you need to rescue you from a toxic situation. It is confirmation that your suspicions are real. Confirmation that you are with someone who cannot be trusted. And it's confirmation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this is someone whom you shouldn't be with anymore. So Allah will expose people who believe that they're getting away with major sins and taking away the rights of other people. Now, this truth again could be other things. It could be fraud. Someone might scam you out of, money, profits from a business, an inheritance. The truth will reveal itself so that you know whom you're dealing with, and it will be evidence that you need in a court case to get you out of a situation or to get you your rights. Another way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescues you is by allowing the pathological liar to slip up. Again, I see this in court a lot. I used to take a lot of cases in court. And narcissists are pathological liars. They lie so much until they forget their own lies. And they always slip up in the end. Pathological liars will always slip up because they forget their own lies. They forget the stories that they've made up, and they forget the details of those stories. So if they have filed an accusation, a false accusation against you, or they've told police that you've been abusing the children or you've been abusing them, the story will always come out differently the longer the case progresses. So sometimes they will shoot themselves in the foot without knowing because of their lies. And this is a way Allah again gets you out of a situation by allowing someone to forget their lies. Allah allows them to forget. He allows them to forget the stories that they've fabricated, and they instead tell the truth. Or they refrain from telling the same lies so that your side of the story is now taken as truth, because they can no longer remember what it is that they were accusing you of, or they forget details. Something will happen. Pathological liars always dig themselves a very deep grave. And another thing that they will do, again, this is the work of angels, is that angels allow them to lose their cool in front of other people. So if, for example, families have got together for mediation, they go to complain about someone or something that's happened with their victim, and the victim's side of the family or the mediator is seen to be taking the side of the victim. The narcissist here will get very defensive, very rude, and they start to lash out at even the family members who used to respect them and like them. They will start to lash out at the judge, at the solicitors, at the defendants. They will start to lash out in front of everybody. They will forget themselves. And they will act in a crazy way. They will be rude, vile, they will swear, they will shock everybody. I've seen this personally happen. It happened to me. And this is how I got out of my marriage. Because when we went to court for the khula, and he saw that the judge was telling me that I have valid reasons for wanting an exit, he got really annoyed. My ex got really annoyed, and he started shouting, swearing, using vile language, cursing. And the judge said, if you can talk like this and behave like this in front of me in a courthouse, then what on earth do you do behind closed doors with her? And he issued me the fasq there and then. Because he acted in a very strange way. You think that's by coincidence? Allah allows them to do that. Allah allows them to behave in that way to get you out of a situation. Again, narcissists will be listening to this, trying to figure out ways of, not slipping up. no matter what you do, no matter how much you try to prevent this from happening, I'm telling you, Allah will always let you behave in a certain way to get your victim out of the situation. You can't help it. You will not have any control over yourself. When Allah wants to expose, He will expose. So people start behaving in a very strange way. And you think to yourself, why would he or she behave like that in front of a judge? Are they stupid? Are they stupid to swear at a judge? Are they stupid to have a tantrum in front of all of these people who are watching them and use vile language? You question it. You think, what on earth is going on with this person? They must be retarded. They must be really arrogant to think that they can get away with that as well in front of everybody. Everyone can now see their true colours and they're still going. You think that's by coincidence? Allah is allowing them to behave that way. Allah's allowing it to get you out. Because when people can see what you're dealing with now, Allah allows people to see what you're dealing with. I've been dealing with this monster for the last 10 years and no one believes me because he's an imam. She's a Quran teacher. He's a sheikh. He is a life coach, whatever. I've seen weird things from people who, again, present themselves as being very religious and pious, and Allah will expose those people. The hypocrites are always exposed. So Allah will give people a taste of what you've gone through by allowing the narcissist to act in front of other people the same way they act behind closed doors. And that's why sometimes when you have mediation, they lash out at your family who never saw that side to them before, and they're like, whoa, what the hell did we just see? Have you been living with that for the last 10 years? No, we're not going to allow you to deal with that anymore. I didn't believe it until I saw it. Boy, have I seen this so many times. It happened to me. It's happened to loads of people that I know. The narcissist reveals himself or herself in front of other people to get you out because you have made the dua that Allah exposes the truth and gives you an easy exit. So when the narcissist reveals his or her true colours, people now take the side of the empath and they support the empath in getting them out. And another sign is if you don't have any male relatives, you will find a supportive man pop out of nowhere. And again, this could be the judge, this could be a solicitor, this could be a family friend who, feels bad for you and they step up for you. It could be a distant relative, an uncle. It could be someone who has asked for power of attorney to be able to be your mahram in that situation. I've seen good people step up for good women. There have been some amazing men I've come across in my life who have done that for women who are vulnerable. They apply for a power of attorney and they stick up for that woman and defend her in court because they can see she's got nobody. So sometimes, again, someone comes into your life and they offer that assistance as a man in that situation. And yeah, I think it's amazing when people can do that. I really do admire people like that. And we need more empathic men to stand up for vulnerable women. There's a lot of reward in that. You have no idea how much women suffer when they don't have male relatives to support them. So another thing that I have seen happen to narcissists, especially the ones who are really oppressive, the ones who believe they can get away with not giving people their rights. Again, this could be a parent, this could be a friend, it could be a son, it could be a husband, it could be a wife, it could be anybody. Is that Allah gives that person a terminal illness. And the terminal illness has been given to humble them and put them in a state of weakness that stops them from oppressing. They might be people who physically discipline. They might be the type to flex their muscles on people who are vulnerable and weaker than them. They could be people who commit fraud and all sorts of things. When someone gets a terminal illness and they're bedridden, they can't do anything. So Allah saves the empath, the person who made dua, from even more oppression from that person. So when they're bedridden, when they're in a coma, when they're always in and out of hospital, when they're humbled by the experience of having nurses and people look after them because they are no longer independent, they are no longer able to function as they used to, this can save someone from the abuse of a narcissist. This comes from Allah. This is rescue from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the person who made dua to be rescued. And it can give such relief. I know people who were relieved when their husband or wife or their parent, even their parent, was put in a coma from a horrible accident. You know what they said? They said, Alhamdulillah, we don't have to deal with them anymore. Let them stay in hospital. Let them stay in that coma. Ya Rab, let that coma last for many years. And that's how they get their divorce easily. Khalas, that the person is in a coma, I can get out of the situation. Or the toxic parent is in a coma. They no longer have to listen to the abuse of that parent, that father, that narc father who is just horrible to everybody. Sometimes the answer to a dua is a terminal illness for that narcissist. And that narcissist cannot escape the answer of that dua of the oppressed. You can't. You've got no control over that. If Allah wills for that to happen to you, what are you going to do about it? How far is your qareen and your arrogance going to get you when you are in a situation where you have become so humbled by a situation like this because you have no end to your abuse and there is no end to your lack of empathy? Sometimes Allah has to save people from narcissists by putting them in that situation just to give relief to other people. I've even seen narcissists have sudden deaths. Wallahi. Horrible car accidents, motorbike accidents, heart attacks. Things that happen so unexpectedly to narcissists in order for Allah to remove and rescue people from their abuse. Sometimes Allah will end their life there and then after a dua that was said at tahajjud. You know, people who cry during tahajjud prayer and they pray that Allah removes an oppressor from their life. Boy, if you're a narcissist, you will never escape that dua. You will never escape that dua. And perhaps your abuse is the cause of your life ending in your youth. Your life ending so abruptly, where you have no chance for repentance anymore because of your arrogance. Your arrogance and your abuse has put you in a situation where people are praying for your death. People are praying for Allah to take your life so that they can have relief from you. And you think you can get away from that dua. You think you can figure out a new manipulation strategy to get away with abuse and continue your manipulation and mock Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never. Never will you be able to escape the death that has been ordained for you as a result of a dua that was received by Allah from someone who needs relief from your absence in this dunya. There is no escape from that. And wallahi, I've seen it. I've seen it in my life where women especially, they're so abused. They are punched, kicked. I know a woman who was kicked in the stomach when she was pregnant and it caused her to have a miscarriage. And she made dua that Allah takes his life the same way he took the life of her baby, and he died in a horrible car accident the next day. And not only did he die in a horrible car accident, they couldn't even wash his body for burial because his body was literally minced in that car accident. It was between his car and a massive truck. And he was driving on the road to Taif. So if you've been to Saudi and you've ever driven to Taif, it's a mountain road. It spirals all the way up until you get to the city of Taif. And yeah, a truck came down on that road and hit him into the side of the mountain. And it was just the worst ending for him ever. But that dua that comes from the heart, if a narcissist does not fear that dua that comes from the heart of a victim, he or she will have a horrible ending. And it will give relief to everyone who was oppressed by that person. They will not be praying for your forgiveness, in the hereafter. They will not remember you in Sadaqah Jariyah. They will just be so happy that you are gone from this dunya. They no longer have to deal with you. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescuing the empath from the abuser. And it's when the angel of death is sent to that person. So again, an angel gets you out of that situation. The angel of death will approach a narcissistic abuser at a time when they least expect it. And the biggest calamity that anyone will face, especially as a Muslim, is to die with no repentance. Because now you have to be held accountable for everyone you abused, every abuse you ever inflicted on anybody on the Day of Judgment and in your grave. So if this does not wake you up, if you are a narcissist listening to this and it doesn't wake you up to fix up your life and get the help that you need to overpower your qareen, elevate your nafs, become a good person, I don't know what will. I'm hoping this, inshallah, will inspire some people to rethink the way they live their life. Because something like this will come to you in one way or another. It will be blindness. You might be completely blind to a situation. Like a lot of narcissists are blind to what's happening in a situation. They're blind to their own self-sabotage. So narcissists will self-sabotage a lot, and they're blind to it. Allah allows them to be blind to it to get you out of the situation. They will do things, so much self-sabotage. If you've been with a narcissist, especially a man-child or a woman-child, and you find yourself in a situation where you're like, I deserve better than this. But because of the guilt I have towards leaving this person who needs me, I don't know how to get out. But Ya Allah, help me get out of this. I don't know how to get out. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it Islamically correct for me to get a divorce? Is it Islamically correct for me to leave a situation like this? Because you're not sure what's going on. You're with a man-child narc who needs you. They're not abusing you, but the abuse is subtle, like gaslighting. And you think, am I doing the right thing by leaving this situation? And that person will self-sabotage. All of a sudden, you will find that person sabotaging the entire relationship. It will be a relationship that you believe is quite good or has been okay because there's not been any abuse like you've experienced before. At least he's not hitting me. At least he's not shouting at me, swearing at me. I can deal with some gaslighting here and there. But you're still unhappy. So you make that dua, Ya Allah, if this is not right for me, get me out of this situation. And then bam, they self-sabotage. Or you get a reverse discard. Or you get discarded. Or they say to you, I can't do this anymore. I need to leave. That's another way Allah saves you from a toxic relationship. Or a relationship that Allah knows is going to get worse if you don't leave now. If you don't leave in that point in time. When someone self-sabotages a relationship that you're in and you just do not understand why the hell they would do that, when their situation with you is so good. They've got a good life with you, they're looked after, they have everything, but they self-sabotage. They start the devaluation stage. This is Allah blinding them. It's blindness. Blindness comes from Allah. He's getting you out of a situation. Because when He keeps them blind, they don't see what they're doing to keep you in a toxic situation. They don't realize that they're giving you a way out by sabotaging it for you. So if they can do the hard work and self-sabotage everything, you're free to go. You've got your excuse. Well, you had it good, you didn't appreciate, you sabotaged it all. Adios, I'm out of here. It's your best way out. Yes, it hurts. Yes, there will be heartbreak. But their self-sabotage has saved you from worse to come. When the devaluation stage hits, that's Allah exposing to you that you are with someone whom you shouldn't be with, because the right person would never devalue you in that way. They don't love bomb you and idealize you and then devalue you and discard you. That's the narc cycle. The narcissistic cycle of abuse is like that. A healthy cycle is when someone treats you the same way they did in the beginning. It's consistent. It's good treatment from start to finish. Even if they divorce you, they do it nicely. They do it with dignity and they do it with respect. But a narcissist, no, he'll put you through all these emotional roller coasters that you need to ride on until you get yourself out of the situation. Sometimes when you're with someone who doesn't outwardly abuse you, like, again, physical abuse and all of that, it can cause you to stay longer in a relationship like this until they self-sabotage. A codependent will try to fix their self-sabotage. They're like, what will it take for you to stay? If you're not happy, what can I do to make you stay? That's codependent. An empath will leave and walk away. They'll say, well, if you don't appreciate what I've given you, what I'm doing for you, I'm done. That's Allah's way of getting you out. He allows them to sabotage it so that the door is open for you to leave, because Allah can see what's going to happen in the future with this person. And then they won't understand that same narcissist who sabotaged a very good situation for them. It wasn't good for you, it was brilliant for them. Afterwards, when the dust settles and you've walked away and you go no contact, you block them everywhere, you don't talk to them anymore, they start thinking, what did I do? Realization hits them. Oh my God, what did I do? How could I let someone like that go? I want them back. They start the hoover. Sometimes, not all the time. If they believe that there's a chance that you can take them back, they'll hoover. If they believe there's no chance whatsoever, they really screwed up this time, they won't come back. They won't come back. They won't risk it. They won't risk having their ego smashed with a rejection. But they will ask themselves, when they wake up from being blinded by Allah, what did I do? I'm so stupid. Everyone will look at them as someone really stupid. What are you doing? Why would you self-sabotage an amazing situation that you've been given? Even they don't understand it, because they don't understand their relationship with their qareen. They don't understand that. So their qareen will blind them to what's good. I've already explained that to you before. If you go back to my podcast about the hoover, it's explained there. But when you make a dua, because you're confused about a certain situation, you feel like your deen is not as strong as it was, and you make dua to Allah to make things clear, He will allow that narcissist to self-sabotage. And they will always wonder, they'll regret it all their life, because they have no idea how they could let someone like you go. It's like a cloud just covered them. You think that's by coincidence? There's a massive spiritual aspect to narcissism that a lot of people just do not understand. Allah blinds a lot of these people so you can get out. He holds them back so that you can run out the door. Because if he didn't hold them back, they wouldn't let you leave. Sometimes Allah blinds them and holds them back to give you some time to pack and leave. And by the time you leave and the dust settles, they're left scratching their heads thinking, what just happened? How did that happen? That's your answer. And the last thing in this list that I'd like to mention as a way of Allah saving you and rescuing you from an abuser is the new supply. A new supply or a back burner supply will steal the narcissist from you. The narcissist gets distracted with the new source of supply. They discard you, okay? Because a narcissist will never discard you unless they have a backup in place. They have to have a new source of supply in the wings, waiting for them before they discard you. So the new supply has been sent by Allah into the life of that narcissist to take that narcissist away from you. And that's why I keep telling people, don't hate the new supply. The new supply has saved you from that situation. Allah allows the new supply to come into the life of that narcissist. And that's why the new supply, 90% of the time, even 95% of the time, is another narcissist like them. So the answer to your dua can actually be Allah sending another narcissist to the narcissist. I'm going to do another podcast, inshallah, about the new supply. The back burner supply, the supply who's always been there, and the new supply, the stranger, who comes into the life of a narcissist. There are two different types of supplies. I'll do another podcast, inshallah, about them. But sometimes the kafara or the karma of a narcissist as a response to your dua is that they get sent someone from their own kind. الخبيثات للخبيثين والخبيثون للخبيثات. Vile men are for vile women, and vile women are for vile men. Allah gets you out of a situation by replacing you with who they really deserve. And they don't see it. They see that person, the new supply, as the shiny new object. Where the grass is greener. Everything is more exciting, more fun, more pretty, more handsome on the other side. You think that's by coincidence? Allah allows them to see it that way. Allah allows them to see that the grass is greener. Allah allows them to see that this shiny new source of supply is the better deal to get them away from you. When a new source of supply comes into the picture, back burner or new source, let the new supply take them. Let them have them, because that's Allah's way of getting you out. Allah's way of getting you out. He's rescued you. He's rescued you. And you could be a man in this situation where you're so riddled with guilt about leaving your children, breaking a family home, issuing a talaq, a divorce, and then you find out about a new source of supply. Someone she's having an affair with. Someone she's getting attention from. Boy, you better leave her to that new source of supply. That's your way out. That's your ticket out of that hellhole. Let them go to the new source of supply. Allah is allowing them to be with who they deserve. I'm telling you, 95% of the time, 9 times out of 10, that new supply is another narcissist like them. I can't wait to do a podcast about that one, so that you guys will never hate the new supply ever again. You'll get closure from it. You'll see the new supply in a whole new light. Allah sent the new supply to save you. And the sooner you realize that, the better you will deal with your situation and move on and take that as a golden ticket out of your toxic situation. Okay? So if you make a dua to Allah that he takes you out of a situation and all of a sudden a new man or a new woman pops up, or you find out about someone or an affair or cheating, that supply, that new supply or that back burner supply is the answer to your dua. Let them go. Let them discard you for that new person. So, these are the ways that I've seen in my life with clients, myself, friends, family members. This is how Allah has removed the empath and rescued them from an abuser. It's usually one of these things that I've mentioned in the list. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does it. And it's no joke. It's no joke. That is how they are removed and how you get your victory. So I hope that's helped, inshallah, to give you clarity and closure on that situation. If you are stuck in a very toxic situation and you feel like there's no way out, there's no hope, there's nowhere to go, you don't know what to do, make that dua. Pray to Allah to rescue you, and He will. He will send something, send someone, do something to get you out. So you no longer have to deal with that narcissist. And if you're a narcissist listening to this, I really, really hope that you take this information seriously and you get the help that you need so that your fate isn't determined by the dua of someone who you've oppressed. So I hope that's helped, inshallah. Thank you for listening until now. If you're still with me, please do share this podcast with other people who are in this situation. It will give them hope. It will give them a reason to, inshallah, move on with their life and, increase their tawakkul and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to know that Allah fights in their corner for them and that Allah has their back and that Allah will always save those who are oppressed. Allah is amazing. He will get you out of every difficult situation when you have that trust that He can do it. Because that's what the Quran is there for. That's why we have stories of the prophets. That's why we have hadiths and, narrations from the Sahaba. So that we have that hope that Allah can rescue us when we ask for it. You have to ask for it. You can't not do the work and then expect Allah to just get you out of it. He wants to know that you know that only Allah can get you out of that situation. And He will do it in the most amazing ways, the most fascinating ways. And it will increase your iman, you'll become a better Muslim after it, and you'll never worry about anything ever again. Because once you see how Allah takes you out of such a toxic situation, you will change as a person and you will change as a Muslim. That is when tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is built within you. Not every Muslim has tawakkul until they decide to place their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they see the result of that. It's only then can someone truly understand the beauty of having trust in Allah and that belief that Allah is always with the empath. Allah will never side with the narcissist, even if it looks that way. Even if it looks like the narcissist still has a great life, they're making money, they've got married. Trust me, it's not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's all a part of their delusion. And their delusion is thinking that if I continue life as a narcissist, because things are working out for me, then everything will be fine. That's not the case. The more they transgress against the rights of others, believing that they're safe, my life is going well, my arrogance is getting me everywhere, the further down they're slipping into that well. And it'll be really hard for them to clamber out of it without help. And when they need that help, they won't find anyone to help them because of all the damage they've caused other people. So don't be those people who find no one there for them later. Don't be those people who have dua said against them because you're a vile person to deal with. and to live with. So, hope that's helped. I will end it here, inshallah. Please do like the podcast if it's helped you, so it can appear, inshallah, in search results when people search for similar terms. And until the next podcast, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.